Welcome to September 28th, 2024, Carson City, Nevada. Housing market update. So rates have been going down, starting to get more buyers back into the marketplace. The news is catching up on it. That Fed dropped rates, so that just makes a little more activity happening. A lot of buyers who've been sitting on the sidelines waiting for markets to adjust, they're starting to see that. Now they're kind of balancing it out. How low do rates get? Because if they get too low, then that can enter more buyers into the marketplace and that could drive up prices, right? So you might see a lot of people catch that as buyers and get into the marketplace now before prices change too much. We're still in a housing shortage. A lot of folks are still moving here. Northern Nevada is behaving extremely differently than the nation. You might have seen that prices are going down across the nation. Well, think of it this way. They're selling their homes there to move here. I mean, that's just basically how it is. The demand for West Coast properties is so much higher than the rest of the nation just because we have good, safe weather. I mean, think about hurricanes right now. You know, if you have hurricanes year after year after year, you start thinking about wanting to make changes. Those are the ways that real estate markets move and change. And right now it's making our market very, very desirable. There's been a median sales price for Carson City right now. Median price is $525. Yeah, it says down 12.5% from last year, but if you've seen enough of these, you know I don't take that stuff into heavy consideration. I look more at trend lines. Take a look at the trend line. So ebbs and flows because of weekly data, but looks generally flat. We're not really seeing big upward trends, big downward trends in prices. So I'm saying that prices are holding fairly strong. Right now it's about $525, but you can see some weeks at $600. So let's just call it between $525 and $600 is a very typical house in the Carson City marketplace. Now remember, we're talking about single family homes. There's also stick-built homes. There's also condominium and townhomes as well as manufactured homes. That data is not included in here. We're just going to be talking about stick-built homes in this report. So about 525, you can plan on, let's call it the higher fives, is a very, very typical range for the Carson City marketplace. Now, they have new construction as well. So there is a lot of options right now. I think there's 5 or 6 developments currently in Carson City that you can consider in addition to resale homes. Great part about new construction is you're going to have special loan programs that can help get your affordability even further than it's already on its way to do right now. But overall, 525 as of this week. But take a look at that trend line. It's very stable, very level. Let's take a look at closed units right now. So right now, about 15 units from this time last year. We had a nice little spike in units, but you can kind of see the volatility. So I'm going to say overall right now, it's about 16 to, let's call it 12 to 20 homes per week sell in the Carson City market, not including the new construction development. There's 5 right now. Those units aren't going to be reflected in the same way as here. So unless they put their house on the real estate, the realtor database, that data is not going to show up in here. So there's going to be additional new construction homes not reflected in here, but anywhere between 12 and 20 homes per maker currently selling. Take a look at the trend line right now. Some massive volatilities, but if people are chasing end of the month, that happens sometimes. There's reasons that there's big spikes like this, but overall trend line, we kind of had a nice increase right around spring. And it's been holding generally okay, but with a fair amount of volatility. But we're not really seeing downward trends. Just look on the left-hand side there. See how there's kind of a slow downward trend from September down to about the end of January. I guess if you kind of look at it that way, there's a little bit of an uptick in behavior, but not a lot, maybe by a unit or two. Overall, because the volatility is so big, it's sitting pretty flat and level. When is that going to start going down? We'll see, because seasonality is starting to kick in. You can see it's about this time last year that the seasonality kicked in Carson. I think it'll depend on affordability because that's improving right now compared to last year. And I think it'll depend on the winter, how icy it's going to be. If it gets super, super icy, that will calm down the real estate market. If it's a nice dry winter, nobody cares how cold it gets. They care if it's snowy and if it's icy. That's what they care about when it comes to buying and selling homes. If it stays dry, I think we're going to have a very active fall and winter marketplace. Pending units, very much the same as closed. See how we just kind of had a little bit of a bump up right there around March, around April, but then right when we got into the beginning of spring and summer, it just kind of stayed level. That's the kind of same thing we're seeing right now with the closed units. So about 16 units right now, up from this time last year, but that's just because it was off on volatility of weekly data. But you can see in general right now, anywhere between, about the same, about 10 to 18, 19 homes per week are moving in Carson right now. And notice it's not slowing down. So this is the real-time data. This is what happened just 7 days ago. This is what buyers are doing right now. And you can see it's holding. We're not in downward trend of seasonality. And I question if that's going to occur because affordability is improving right now. And the more affordability improves, the more buyers are going to jump off the fence and get into the market. So that can make it for very active in quarter 3 and quarter 4, and gosh, even quarter 1 of this year. Days to contract, definitely on the upward swing. You can kind of see it on there, but not quick, really, really big swings. So that's good to see. That means that sellers are doing a fairly good job coming out of the gate at the right price. Maybe they have to do a small change or two, but it's not like it's taking months and months and months to find that right top dollar price. Usually when we're seeing homes that are sitting right now, has nothing to do with the house. It has to do with the seller and their agent overpricing the property. If a house is priced right, it will move. If a house is priced wrong, it will sit until that price is reduced to reach the marketplace. You see a little small upward trend right now, but overall it takes about a month to sell a home in Carson City. Anything 30 days and under, in my opinion, is a very active marketplace. So they just kind of barely crested that mark past the 30. So I'm still saying this is an active marketplace because we're still right around that 30. Once you start getting like the 45s and the 60s, that's when you can start saying that there's some great buyer opportunities. But right now, we've been at about 3-4 weeks for some time. One of my last sessions that we did this on, we talked about kind of 4 weeks on the market. I mean, we're only within 10 days of that. So you can see some really crazy volatility during the beginning of the year. We're not really seeing that. It's pretty consistent. That also tells me that sellers are doing a good job relying on the data at hand to start at a more reasonable starting place. If they get too far off, that's when those days on market really sticks. They have to do multiple price reductions to find the top dollar offer. But if they're in the right range, then maybe one change, maybe no changes to find that right buyer. Active inventory, just did a Fernley update and very, very similar. You can kind of start seeing that peak and downward trend. So this is where the seasonality starts to be interesting to me. So I showed you the pendings, it was holding pretty flat. So it means buyer seasonality really hasn't changed, but sellers on the other hand, you are starting to see kind of that seasonal change. Selection is starting to go down right now. You can see it kind of peaked out in the summer months. And then right about the end of August, we're now seeing that repeated downward trend. You can kind of see that hump and now it's on its way down. Seasonality on selection is starting to kick in. So a couple of things. We talked about affordability improving with buyers. So if you're thinking about selling, remember, there's an opportunity to be had right now because I think more buyers are going to enter the marketplace. If the selection is down as a seller, that means competition is down. So that's going to make your home more attractive because you're competing against less homes. You always want to be the only person in the neighborhood for sale. The more people you have, the more you have to compete, and people start splitting hairs and critiquing one thing. So it's nice to be in a lower competitive market. Now, if you're a buyer, I mean, gosh, you still have more selection than you did last year. You can kind of see how the peak got a little higher than that. So the market is improving year over year, getting more active. Because remember, we are insanely behind on demand and supply for our population growth. It'll take years to get over this one. But from a month over month standpoint, we're in that downward trend. There is a little bit less homes for sale, but I remember as a buyer, you're looking for the right home. You don't need 20 homes, you need the right home. So just think about that. And for sellers, notice your competition is declining as we speak. Last but not least, new units. So you can kind of see that units haven't declined a little bit. I mean, I guess you could say barely right around June, you kind of see a little bit of a downward trend, but you kind of fight to see that. At a quick glance, you could say it's level, so just barely declining. So what this shows me is that homes are getting absorbed faster than homes are selling. So it's not so much that sellers have dropped off just yet. You can kind of see it's flatlined there. You know, we've seen a little bit of a drop, but it looks to me more like homes are being absorbed faster than they're being listed, and that's reducing inventory. That's going to be a great thing for a seller to take into consideration because there's going to be less for them to choose from as the months go on. Buyers' affordability is going to improve. They're going to be more active in the market with less competition. That's a good place to be in as a seller. Does that mean prices are going to skyrocket? No, we still have affordability limitations, but you could have a more active home than you otherwise could have because of thanks to the affordability changes with the interest rates going down. Overall story, very, very similar to the Fernley market right now, almost in the point of units sold, and Carson City is quite a bit larger than the other marketplace than Fernley. So, but very, very similar trend lines. Active inventory starting to go down. Pendings are holding steady. Closed units holding steady. A little bit of upward trends along the way, but just it's a fight to talk about trends. It's almost level across the board. And then right now it takes just a little over a month for a seller to find a buyer on their properties. Do keep an eye out for the weather. As long as it stays dry and sunny, nobody cares about how cold it gets. You could see a very, very active Q3, Q4, into Q1 real estate market. So keep an eye on those type of things and affordability. Watch those interest rates. The more interest rates become affordable, the more buyers will enter the marketplace.
For the latest insight, tips, and market updates for the Northern Nevada real estate market, be sure to hit subscribe. We'll do weekly updates to keep you informed of what's the latest. Also be sure to explore our Northern Nevada house search.